Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, who's a little bit under the weather, DBJ. Thank you very much for joining me. All of you who are able to join live, of course, are our co hosts for today. And whenever the show comes back, I always like to go back to some sort of basics. And I thought we would talk about the 15 villains archetypes in literature and how it relates to our villains that we use in tabletop role-playing games. Now, we have plenty of examples of villains, the BBEGs, we love to call them, the big bad evil guys, and their entourages. But I thought we would talk about the purpose of the villain, whether that villain has a purpose, like what they want, um, maybe some of their machinations, what they do, and use some of our non-role playing rules or foundations or mechanisms or mantras or whatever, and kind of overlay them into our role playing experience. Okay, and yes, Shy Squad. I always say, like, we're always the hero in our own story and the villain in everyone else's. And a lot of our more intricate villains tend to fall into these other categories where we, especially today, we have got many stories in our media where we understand what the villain is going through. We may not agree with what they want, or we may agree with what they want. We may not agree with their tactics. And so, yeah, big bad evil gal. Yeah, absolutely, they're Drew. I apologize. Equal opportunities for villainy, I say. Okay, so here we have our 15 villain archetypes, and they are the mastermind, the authority figure, the fanatic, the beast. Before I go on, many of these probably have an overlap, or some of your most memorable villains either epitomizes one of these archetypes, or they just happen to overlap and they kind of feel like a number of them. Okay, so here we go. We've got the fanatic, the beast, the evil incarnate, the nemesis, the femme fatale, the bully, the machine, the fallen hero, the henchman, the antagonist, the corrupted, a dark god, and the vengeful one. And we will start to pick some of these apart and realize where they go. And I want to say that because I tend to reference fantasy D20, Dungeons and Dragons and all of its derivatives, and fantasy gaming in general. And one thing I feel that has a gap is that we have some of our well-known villain types, um, uh, physical structure-wise, liches, vampire lords, dragons. We have our elder god versions of them as well, such as illithids or mind flayers, beholders. And I wish we had all of the different categories a um I'll say a top notch, a paragon, a a classification of big bad for all of the villain types that we use. So I wish there was a humanoid, goblinoid that was on the same level as like the dragons and the vampire lords. Like, I wish there was an ooze that was at on those levels. And I guess some of those come from the fiendish portion of fantasy, the outer planes and such. But I really do wish that we had like giants and et cetera, that kind of filled those gaps that we could easily grab onto. But hey, Mike, hey, and King and Drew, and the Shy Squad, who seems to be maybe not so fuzzy headed any longer. Um, Yank says maybe we can finally discover why villains are always chilling. That always bothered me in television and movies where the bad guy's always like hanging out, and then he's got his like henchmen kind of like arrayed, before them specifically. I'm always like, what are they? Do they hang out like this all the time? Like, why would they just be sitting there, at the bottom of a throne or something? Shai says, damn, notification didn't work. Ooh. And the Ant King says, yeah, and imagine an overtly evil ooze. Yeah, Disturbance, Radiohead, neat. Okay, so our first villain type is the mastermind. And yes, this is this type of villain, although normally seen as like the figurehead, uh, puppeteer of many other villains. What I love about the mastermind archetype is that it lends itself to having different tiers of villains along the way for the players to fight to get up to the top level, and it makes a lot of sense to have it that way. Yeah, Mike says, "Oh, Oblex is an ooze final boss. I've used one as a criminal mastermind. It's the head of a thieves guild in Stavros." See, I love that kind of thing because the way you're well, of course, it is an ooze um, that is a boss level, but the way it's described is that not only can it take on the different factions, basically it's one villain but it takes on different faces and such. It probably is manipulating other people who don't know they're being manipulated, which I prefer for the mastermind, right? It's the evil priest manipulating the good knights, the knights of good to do evil things. I had a plot like that where the knights of good were going out and slaughtering the goblinoids, and then people and causing the goblinoids to have some sympathies because they were going out murder killing the the children and the pregnant goblinoids and dragging their bodies back. And then the knights of good and law were just like, oops, maybe we shouldn't have been doing this kind of thing. All right, next is the authority figure. Now, oftentimes the mastermind and the authority figure are one and the same. We love to think of them as politicians, guild leaders, um, heads of factions, but the mastermind doesn't really need to be. The mastermind could be the king maker, not the king itself. Um, Mike says it. Yeah, the corrupted ooze mastermind. That'd be awesome. Just a little drip, a little tincture under the tongue, and they become a enslaved to the ooze would be awesome. Mike says its name is Forget Me Not. It trades memories for secrets. I love that kind of stuff. It absorbs prey or sacrifices as the price, infusing their memories into its library. Of course it does. Of course, because that's the best way to get under people's skin, right? I'm sorry, the PCs come back to the NPCs and like, I thought their eye color was blue, not brown. I don't remember that. Or they have a certain desire for like a food, or they have a certain behavior that the PCs are like that. I don't remember them being that way. Why don't they remember me? The barmaid always remembered me. All right, we have the fanatic villain archetype, and of course, we've seen many fanatical types of especially cults. This very much fits into cults, but a fanatic is also a great way for us to have villains not act um, in their best interest. So, unfortunately, and we have real life examples of this of villains ready to sacrifice their lives and lives of others, and also basically being unreasonable to deal with. And the fanatic can very much, of course, be associated with religion or visions of things, but fanaticism can also come from exposing people to knowledge or powers that mortal man was not meant to know. Um, or the villain may be convinced that what they're doing is a good thing. And fanatics make great hench people as well. They make second, third, fourth tier of villainry as well. Although uh, one of our most famous in our modern culture fanatics could absolutely be Thanos, who wants to destroy half the life in the universe. Now, of course, many of us with a little common sense and able to take a breath go, wait a minute, if you have all the cosmic stones, you don't have to eliminate half the life in the universe, but that's the whole point, right? Hey, Dust Angel, thank you so much. Hail and well met to thee as well. I love it. Mm-mm-mm. Oh man, here we go. Shitlords says, "What about the good old trickster, the pathological mischief maker?" Um, that would probably be an antagonist. And Drew says the beast, the machine, and thus dehumanized figures are not really evil, but just othered. Possibly. It depends on. We've seen stories that are modulated with these, so we'll get into that, right? Um, yeah, shit, Lord, he's not really evil. He just can't stop doing tricks, which would kind of fall into a little bit of fanaticism as well. And femme fatale as well, just like femme fatale is just display of male fears and not an actual female villainy. And mind you, these are I didn't make these up. These are pulled from literary concepts, and so I wanted to kind of dismantle them a little bit. Um, so we after the fanatic, we have the beast, and I think what differentiates. Okay, let me put this up. Sorry about that, Drew. What differentiates the beast from, I mean, makes the beast a villain versus like nature would be that the beast is out to specifically engage in brutality and harm and not just defend itself. So there would be, for example, we've seen back in the 80s there were a lot of like disaster styled movies. Some of those disaster movies were nature, some were from scientific problems, and others were animals, animalistic monsters that were turned bestial, like from radiation or disease or something like that. There's a recent movie with Idris Alba about a lion, and the 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 lion's pride was killed, and the lion was acting out of desperation and pain and anguish. And so usually in not usually the best way to describe a beast is that it is above and beyond just nature. It's not a bear protecting its cubs. It is it has been set upon, like, yeah, the xenomorphs and stuff. Yep, shitlords. So anything like the xenomorph or tyranids from 40K, would that be beast? I would say yes. Something unleashed on purpose, starved, diseased, manipulated, enraged, and things like that. You know, the because of course we add into these other villains, right? Like the person with the cattle prod poking the monster is also the villain, right? That pokes the cattle prod, and then the beast gets out, and it's like we can't wait for the one with the cattle prod to be killed, like a Godzilla, you know, or what's the movies, the recent Planet of the Apes movies had a lot of those type of characters in it. Yeah. The evil incarnate, of course, is basically evil for evil's sake. It's the Sauron. It's the devil. It is Mephistopheles. It is Lucifer and Satan. You know, they're evil. There's no reasoning with them because of their evil. They're often many times we often see evil incarnate um, dangle power and influence in front of other characters to make them evil, and give them a choice as to whether they could be whether the lives could be saved. I suppose Star Wars, I'm wearing a Star Wars t-shirt. I suppose Star Wars kind of falls into that category a little bit, where the dark side, if we have characters follow the dark side, then they are considered evil incarnate. And then the task of some of our heroes is, well, is that actually true or not? And so, yeah. Mike says the manipulator, the villain that convinces others to act against their best interests. Examples are Needful Things, Pusher from X Files, Purple Man from Marvel. Yep, yeah, I love the live action rendition of Purple Man from Marvel. It's pretty nasty. I love it. And like I said, I pulled these from literary tropes. So many of these, like as Drew's kind of pointed out, is that I think we can. There's an update to many of these. I feel that they are applicable, but maybe the terminology is incorrect, because we're going to get into a couple of these later on down here. We have the after Evil Incarnate, we have the Nemesis, and we see this in the Marvel movies, when we often see this in a lot of our television shows as well, where the protagonist, the nemesis is the equal of our hero, and the nemesis is basically our hero given a different choice. Um, should they? It's Batman in Crime Alley crying over his family and the lost pearls, and does Batman, try to bring justice, or does Batman just turn evil and want to murder, kill everyone? Um, and it's very much like that. The Ant King says The Ghost in the Darkness is another great lion movie with Val Kilmer. It is. That's an unsung hero of like the Beast movie. And sometimes in the Beast movie style, where our heroes are being tracked and our red shirts are being devoured by an animal of some sort. You have to hunt them down. Oftentimes we start to feel a bit pity for the beast. We almost want it to not feel the pain that it is, and our hero is there to not have it suffer any longer. Sometimes that is part of the story. Mike says xenomorphs walk between the beast and the machine as they're a hive. I absolutely agree with that too. And now we get into the femme fatale. And I know I'm moving along with this quick because there's a lot of these categories and such. And Mike says evil incarnate strikes me more like the darkness from Legend, yeah, and the dark world from Fifth Element, Hadar from D&D, and there's other ones. Sauron kind of fits into that category as well. I think the dark side of the Force fits into it, not the Sith, but the dark side fits into evil incarnate. A lot of times, evil incarnate doesn't even talk when it's been suggested. So the femme fatale. So for in literature, very much in noir settings, the femme fatale is often the seductress, often presented as female, that seduces our hero, and we as the outsider kind of scream at our hero to not be pulled into the seductive wiles, the illusions that are being cast by the femme fatale. And then, as a twist, depending on the story, sometimes the femme fatale is we know is evil, and then is convinced to do good in our story. We see this a lot of times in James Bond, or the femme fatale it comes across as a goodly character and backstabs our hero. And then sometimes they're bad, seem to be good, and then go back to bad again. And it is pulled. And strangely, and not strangely enough, more often than not, the lazy way to do it is just to make our hero dark, depressed, and then pulled into by the seductress of the female. But I think the femme fatale fits into a larger structure of convincing. I think the femme fatale is a structure that may convince our heroes to change their mind about what they're doing. And it doesn't need to be female, doesn't even need to be seduction in a sexual manner. So, for example, a hacker, a white hat hacker, a hacker that's good, that knows they're on the run from the police, they live counterculture, and there might be a group of other hackers dubious in their mechanisms that wants to pull our hero into their group, right? I think it's a run away with me. um Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt, Ilsa says, hey Ethan, run away with me. We're spies. We could just run away and hide, and no one will ever find us. And sure, part of that, oh, here we go. Part of that is a little seduction, but the seduction is freedom from an oath, freedom from responsibility, and then there's a little bit of sex added onto it. So I think the femme fatale is a villain that says to our hero, "You don't need to be a hero any longer. Just step away." And so that's what I think that. I think a villain like that could also be things like drugs, alcohol, in our more drama related type of things. Death Angel says the big question is evil and good a definite position? I doubt. No, not at all. And we can get to the whole argument of what is evil and what is good, but we're not doing that. Not for this. We're just doing villain archetypes and kind of like maybe making some of our villains fit into those categories. I could see a femme fatale villains are always like vampire lords and hags and individuals with knowledge and access to releasing the chains that our hero has self-imposed on themselves. That kind of thing. Yeah, Dan King says Predator could be the nemesis since he's a rival hunter to the commando team. Absolutely. That's a really good example of the Predator monster being a nemesis to our hero. And the nemesis doesn't need to be absolutely equal. Like the Predator in the movies tends to be uh, um, visually stronger, taller, faster, more stealthy, has more equipment than our main character, and then our character has to. The Predator absolutely fits into competency stories, competency where our hero is tested on their skill level, not necessarily just their strength, but maybe their endurance, their willpower, their knowledge of the environment, their ability to pick up clues. um, yeah, Mike says the corrupted one and manipulator are essentially the same. And some of these names in these 15 archetypes you may see in a list, and some of the names might be a little bit different, but that's just semantics. Mike says femme fatale is also a gender fluid term. Yeah, consider Lucifer from the show of the same name. He seduces, corrupts, lies his way into making others behave differently. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think in literature the name has stuck around. I think for our terms we could probably rename it something like the it could be the what's something other than seducer. It could be the illusionist maybe, or um the cor- um the corruptee, the one who offers. Yeah, and like Death Angel says, perspective may matter. I think perspective always matters when it comes to good and evil, because even through time itself, is it a lot of times our ethics and morality changes based on time. Um, yeah, Druden says Ilsa Faust is such a great character, and I still wonder if her surname is meant to be read like she is a Faustian character. I would say yes. Many times uh, our when people write characters for our media, oftentimes it's more on the nose than we think it is when a character has a specific name, and because her name is Ilsa Faust, and I completely agree that I think there's a even what's the term? There's a Faustian deal, and I think she kind of fits into that. Like we trust her, but do we really trust her? And I think she was supposed to be that character. Of course, you have to do the little high thing. Do we really? You gotta. Sorry, it just makes it sound that much. That it makes it sound that much more of a question, I guess. Yeah, Death Angel says it truly begs to mind the notion of are we the bad guys? I love those kind of stories as well, because I bet there's a way to um, the oh Hercules goes through this. There's many Greek tragedies where our character makes decisions, and we're like, oh, they're the hero, they're the hero, they're the hero. Ooh, maybe they're not. Right. All right. So after, sorry, just Death Angel Shadow, I had to pull you down a little bit. We have the bully. We know what a bully is, and bullies make great villains because we love to trounce them. Bullies tend to not have very many long-term goals. Some villains aren't masterminds. They don't have long-term goals. They just want to push people around. Now, sometimes the bully thinks they have a long-term goal, but they really don't. They're there to be punched in the throat and kicked in the nuts. And we love to beat up the bullies. Um, and oftentimes we can feel like a story is not finished if the bully doesn't get their comeuppance. And so, yeah, bullies are really great, of course, to show some of our heroes, um, to show our heroes' capabilities, both physically, whether they're martially great and they kick the ass of the bully, whether their willpower, the like Spider-Man, does Spider-Man come back and beat up Flash Thompson, and then also do our heroes, what is their what is the range of our ethics and morals of our hero? So, yes, we want to see Superman kick ass, but he doesn't beat up the bully the way we think he should because he's supposed to be better than us. Captain America the same way, type of thing. That says, "Oh, never mind me. I just enjoy being engaged in deeper thoughts." You're fine. You're fine. Okay. We're coming down the back end stretch here. So we've got the machine now. Yes, we've seen many stories, Skynet and the whole Cyberdyne systems, and the machines are bad. And Drew did bring up a point like the beast and the machine is often thought of as evil, but they aren't. So we have seen that happen. The machine is programmed to do a thing. We think the machine's motivations are evil, but the machine doesn't realize it. And so we as humans have to either educate the machine to stop it from doing a thing. Sometimes the machine doesn't is designed to not know one thing or another. So the machine could be a factory that where all the mechanisms in the factory are going crazy. It's not good or evil. It is just in the background and it is causing destruction to things. Sometimes the machine is ecological. So I would consider the machine to be technology going awry. Or the machine is something that maybe we weren't supposed to mess with, like AI and things like that today. And so the machine can also, in stories, especially with speculative fiction, is a reflection of us writ large. So a great television show that I wish wasn't canceled, hopefully it might come back, but was the Orville. And in the Orville, they had this roboticized AI aliens that were technologically superior to everybody, and they were attacking the rest of the space. And the Orville was trying to stop it, and come to find out that they were eliminating humanity because humanity treated them so bad. And so I do like the idea of the machine being a reflection of us, that the machine's only evil because we made it that way. I'm looking at you, Ex Machina, the movie, and things like that, or a misunderstanding of a thing. Yep, Shai says, yeah, Death Angel, well, cruelty, unprovoked infliction of physical harm. That's pretty much universally evil, right? Okay, there are animals of prey who just need to eat, but that's different. I agree with that as well. Usually monsters that taunt their victims, or like you mentioned there, Hunt, that there are monsters that inflict undue harm. They perform torturous events rather than just consume something. Is often that way as well. Drew says, I like bully character becoming anti-heroes, like the mentioned Flash Thompson. I really like him as Agent Venom. That's also a thing where sometimes we see our villains change, right? Sometimes our heroes, just by our heroes' actions, Captain America and Hawkeye are examples in the MCU where their examples make other villains start to change their attitudes. And then they go, maybe I shouldn't be this way. And Hawkeye has kind of become the big brother, the father type to go, maybe you shouldn't be evil. And then that person changes. Okay, now we go from the machine to the fallen hero. And again, a lot of these flow over each other. So there's something that attaches to the other one. The fallen hero, of course, what is the quote? If you live long enough, you will see yourself become the villain. So this could be very much a hero who is striving to become, to remain heroic, and then after a while they just fall, and they keep trying to do good things, and eventually they just lose the will to do those good things, and then they turn to the evil side. We've also seen fallen heroes, how do I say this? Promote evil to convince other people we should be doing good. Star Trek had a movie about this where both evil sides work together who are like working together to undo a peace treaty with other people trying to work together to prove that we should keep fighting. We've also seen fallen heroes like want to bring about an apocalypse. Um, I'm looking at you, the movie Constantine, where we have an angel trying to bring about um, the Satan's son as a resurrection of some sort, so that people would then fall towards needing the grace of God and belief and such. So Mike says, die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. Exactly. Sometimes when our hero lives too long, their perspective becomes warped, and the sacrificing humanity, their own humanity and humans and innocence starts to become rationalized, right? It's the modern day storytelling. It's the launching of nukes to make everybody realize how wrong nukes are, right? Things like that. Um, it's the it's the let's cause terrorist activity and blame it on other people so that we can go to war with those other people to wipe them out. Very fallen hero motivations on that. And a great thing about fallen heroes is that uh, in storytelling, they absolutely can be on the side of our heroes in the very beginning, and no one suspects anything. And then later on in the storyline, our as I mentioned before, our noble knights become the bad guys. An innocent in our town becomes bitten by a vampire or lycanthrope, and they turn evil. I know that's not necessarily. It's kind of fallen, uh, maybe from an outside source. Maybe a good character is unable to. Our heroes have left town for so long. A good character does an evil thing, or beseeches evil to solve a problem, and now they got to get out of it. Of course, we go into the henchman. Henchman actually fits all the other categories. They just happen to be up under our big bad evil gal. And what I love about henchmen, and I think sometimes is it's very boring to make the henchman just loyal to the bad guy. I love henchmen that are complicated. Maybe a henchman is loyal just because of money. A henchman is loyal because of um, at the end of they're not mercenary. What they want is to solve a situation on their own. They could be convinced to turn. Um, Henchmen are great when the heroes accidentally do something and the henchman goes, "Oh, I guess I'm out of here now." Hey, heroes, you beat ass on everybody else. Guess what? I'm going. I'm out. I'm not going to die because this other person. Yeah. Shitlord says, seems like the most likely fallen hero scenario would be the shooting spree. Yeah, in real life, I mean. Yeah, horrible, but yes. A person who in their heart of I think they could also fall into the fanatic as well, because you can really tell that these fall one against the other. But yes, it could be a hero who's like, I'm trying to do good, I'm trying to do good, I'm trying to do good, and then they just turn on their own, like, you're not helping me do these good things any longer. You need to see what evil really is, or something, or what evil is growing in my heart, kind of thing. um Yep. Mike says examples in 5e: Asmodeus, an angel who refused to stop fighting demons, and Zariel, the same story. Yes, there are uh, the fallen angel archetype itself is a fallen hero, right? Yeah. Yeah. Asmodeus, the fanatical fallen hero doing good, fighting demons, begs the question, can there be anything even remotely good from the abyss? Are we going to do Outer Planes again? Mike says the henchman as the villain is an 80s action movie trope. It sure is. The most evil guy in a group was always the um of the two I see, the second in command, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard. Yeah. James Bond. All villains always had like the right hand, the physically powerful right hand man of the bad guy who's always stroking the white cat, right? Yeah. Drew says henchmen work also without another villain above them. They can be agents of the system itself and thus perpetuating systemic injustices. Those are great stories, especially when you have ethics and morals that are gray, because we see this in police procedurals, right? One cop is a maverick cop breaking the rules to try to bring good. The other cop wants to follow the rules, um, but evil is able to manipulate that. And it's, you know, how far can the good cop go before the corrupt cops pull that good cop in? And yeah, yeah, Mike's is also huge in Bond movies. Yep, where there's the henchman. I love henchmen because you can make strange bedfellows with henchmen, and also you could turn some good people into henchmen as well. A little bit of a fallen hero thing, overlap as well. Okay, we have the antagonist. Now, it's this is literary. I didn't make this list up, but we often separate the antagonist from the villain, but we see antagonists going back to good cop, bad cop procedurals, or we see this in medical procedurals as well, where the antagonist is actually on the side of the hero. They just use a different set of rules. So it is the maverick cop might be the main character or protagonist, or PCs, but there's other enforcers of the law that are like, you shouldn't be breaking the rules to do what you're doing. And so antagonists usually are not evil. They tend to be just people complicating the rules, right? Hey, or enforcing rules that the PCs are breaking. Or an antagonist could be someone who's breaking the rules while the PCs are trying to enforce the rules. So yeah, antagonists tend to be loud and obnoxious. Oftentimes, they tend to get in the way, and antagonists can also have connections to the population. So the player characters can't just, throat punch them out of the way. So they tend to be politicians, or very rich, or nobility, or connected to the underworld, or something like that. Like, you can't just stab them and get rid of them. Oftentimes you have to have uncomfortable conversations with a lot of antagonists as well. Jaws, the evil good henchman? I don't know if that's it. Yeah, Drew says basically every fascist is a henchman, no matter if there is a Hitler or not. Delete them. Yes, sometimes there's systems. Sometimes the system is is evil incarnate. Trying to pull some of the other ones in, and the people who follow the system blindly are the fanatics, and they become the henchmen of that system. I don't know if that's pulling around. Yeah, the fanatic henchman is the bread and butter of fantasy. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes there's people who just want to keep the status quo. There are henchmen and antagonists that know what they're doing is pretty wrong, but they have a fear of what the unknown is. It's the sacrificing the virgin to the evil up on the hill, right? Hey, we're taking an innocent person from our community and literally getting them murder killed on purpose. But the henchman antagonist person is like, yes, but if we don't do this, things will be worse for us. Yeah. I'll get you next time, Gadget. Yep. Or how about this one? If it wasn't for you meddling kids, I'd have gotten away with it. If anybody remembers that. Shitlord says, well, if you bring the state into it, that's every archetype together, even the femme fatale, the honeypots. Yep. By the way, side note, there is a trailer for an upcoming A24 movie that to me looks scary good. I don't know how good the movie will be, but the trailer is called Civil War, and I want to see this so bad. It looks, retro, yeah, raggy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it wasn't for your meddling kids, I'd have gotten away with it. Jinkies. Yeah, Shai says, yeah, henchmen could be the whole state. Just think, Stalin, Hitler, etc. didn't do it by themselves. They needed the entire state apparatus, effectively making every civil servant a henchman. Oh, hell, just a big ass bureaucracy. itself, a blind bureaucracy tends to be that way. All right, we got a couple left here before we get to the end, and we can kind of go over many of these. Oh, thank you. Hey, Death Angel. For much of my life, I was an only child, so I got to play with myself all the time. Okay, you guys can make a meme out of that one. All right, so we have our last three. We have the corrupted, a dark god, and the vengeful one. And again, talking this is I didn't make up this list, but pulling from these, the corrupted is absolutely a good character corrupted by something evil. Usually it's like a disease, like in lycanthropy, um, uh, uh, vampirism. The corrupted could be a good person, like, oh, what's the Marvel character? A Ghost Rider. Hey, save this person's life, evil entity in the netherverse that can hear me, and I'll serve you if you just do this one favor for me. Corruption could also be trying to solve a thing, and there's rules against doing a thing, and a good person breaks the rules, and then they are corrupted afterwards. The Fly might be the movie The Fly, Brundle Fly, could also be kind of in that category as well. Uncovering, yeah, corrupted by the cough. Yeah, I'm feeling that right now. Oh man. Drew says, cue the A24 Civil War trailer to watch right after the stream. Oh, it is extremely American stateside, and it looks scary good because it looks scary real. And I love in the trailer, um, and Dead Man would, I think, would agree with me. There's a funny line in it where it says troops from California and Texas have moved east, and I love it because Texas and California are like so diametrically opposed in this country. And I love in the movie, they're just like, oh no, they're together. I'm like, yeah. Death Angel says, I love those questions of morality. I mean, even Vader was forced to deal with that. Oh yeah, Vader is ethics and morality incarnate. It took a while, but yeah. The corrupted, are we talking demonic corruption here, or just plain old bribes and nepotism? I think both equal out, right? Um, a we see this in fantasy. A good mayor of the town gets corrupted by the evil thieves guild with bribes. There is a small town that is being little by little, their resources are being drained away because the mayor just wants to keep the status quo, and eventually they become corrupted as well. So now some people unknowingly become corrupted. It's just a slow degradation. Then there's others who are martyring themselves. Like, there are those who say, leave my friends and family alone. I will do the evil thing that you need. Right. That's also a type of corruption as well. Someone who willingly goes into the corruption in their heads to think to leave other people away. Mike says the corrupted might be that bureaucracy you mentioned. Yeah, a mechanism that has grown too complex to help anyone, but a chosen few. Cough, American healthcare. Cough, cough. Yep. Yeah. It's sometimes it's even convincing people. No matter how ridiculous it sounds, it's convincing people of a thing, and they themselves think that thing is good, but it isn't any good at all. People think healthcare has been conflated with a welfare state, um, in here in the States, and I'm like, no, that's two separate things. But people conflate. It's easy to have other people conflate things together, and then it can easily corrupt something. Would Waternose from Monster Incorporated be corrupted or fanatic? Ooh, I don't know. Ooh, yeah, because they believed in scaring the kids for that energy. Wow, huh? Could be fanatic. Could be fanatic because they were changed. I don't remember. Death Angel says, I think Palpatine sought after power for power's sake. Okay. whereas Vader sought after power with the best of intentions and succumbed to it. So both on the dark side, but in very different reasons. Yeah, and I, it is, does Palpatine fall into the pure evil? At this rate, yes, but the dark side could even be above that as well. So I would, yeah. Drew says I would say that Palpatine pursued power to establish order, which could be fanatical as well. So you see how all these fit together. All right, so our last two are a dark god and the vengeful one. Again, like I said, these are literary terms. So evil incarnate and a dark god kind of fit together. I think the difference between evil incarnate and a dark god is evil incarnate could be very, very nameless, whereas a dark god is probably a could have a personality that is encompasses so many of these other archetypes, but their power holds very extreme sway over our hero. So in other words, a dark god could be like an untouchable noble, or a I think it could fit into like the vampire lord, the lich. It doesn't have to be a real god. I think it would be like a pharaoh, someone who is so powerful that humanity doesn't touch them any longer, and they're a simple wave of their hand, a simple decree, whatever their wish is, that terrible thing happens by their command, and they're unaffected by the petty ethics and morality of humanity. So I think we have seen in modern day extremely billionaires and trillionaires can fall into this category of a dark god, where by virtue of them just mentioning something makes a thing happen, and then they don't really they're just like, I don't care whether it's good or evil. I'm looking at you, Epstein Island, right? If I had to talk about something like that. Yeah. Yeah, Drew says again, that is why I would categorize Mephistopheles as a dark god and not as evil incarnate. Ah, right. Because I also think a dark, in a literary sense, a dark god is something you could actually parlay with. There's a sneeze coming. Uh-oh. Okay. I think it's something that you could reasonably have a difficult discussion with our hero. The Palpatine Vader Luke Skywalker conflict, where I'm not going to hurt you, and then there's a conversation happening, and I think that as well. Also, a dark god could be above some of our other villain types, where our lower tiered villains look back and forth and go, man, maybe I've been following the wrong person, or maybe the rules don't apply. I thought I was part of the rules don't apply to me category, but I guess the rules do apply to me. Maybe I should change my ways or something like that. The honorable assassin is often thinks that they're following a dark god, and eventually they realize, yeah, they're going to turn against me at some point, so I need to get out of here. He said, that's it. I have to listen to that song to get out of my head. That's awesome. Thank you very much, dear Shadow. It's in there. It's coming. I have a cough button, but I'm afraid to touch it because I'm afraid my audio might go completely out. Mike says, I would say Palpatine became the Dark God. I could see that. Yeah, the very mention of his name was enough to strike fear into Imperial troops. Vader even used, he is not as forgiving as I am, threat to force faster work. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times the rules don't apply to a Dark God villain. And sometimes the hero actually has to bring the rules to that person to, like, I'm going to say Daredevil and the Kingpin may fit into that category. I'm untouchable. The rules don't apply to me. A lot of times, dark gods are kind of assholes. Like they're punks. They're like, I want you to kill this other person. They're like, do it yourself. Oh man. Drew says, I think order, or the notion to be in control, is inherently bad if not outright evil. Yeah, the more control people want to establish, the the worse it is. And of course, then we have our last, the vengeful one. Now, I think the vengeful one, again, flows in some of the fall. We've seen fallen heroes become vengeful ones. We've seen fanatics become vengeful ones. We've seen authority figures and bullies become vengeful ones. And we've, of course, seen many of our great heroes become vengeful ones. And those are ones who are so hurt, they have to take their hurt out on everyone. And going back to a comment that was made before about here in the States, the lone gunman kind of thing, I think also falls into the category of the vengeful one. This is more emotional, I think, than uh, can be some pre-planning, but I think the vengeful one uses the fuel of their emotion to harm and destroy the world to make them feel the way they do. So the villain from the Saw movie series, I think very much fits into the vengeful one. I was harmed, I was wronged. Now everybody's going to pay for it. And we often see bestial monsters have bestial intent, but they're not animals. So, like ghosts, we see evil spirits, things like that are fueled by emotion, and then they want to state they all they want to do is cause pain and harm to everybody else the way they feel. And many times we, are some people just want to see the world burn, and that's the vengeful one, right? They want to see everybody suffer the way they have, whether it's emotionally or physically or something like that. Yeah. And so now these villain archetypes, like again, I pulled them from literature, but I feel like we can take some of these archetypes and layer them against some of our monsters, take some that don't normally fall into the category of some of our other monsters. So what I mean by that is, yeah, Frank Castle. Yeah, Frank Castle. Those who don't know, Frank Castle is the name or alter, or it is the ego of the alter ego of the Punisher, anti-hero, whatever. Anyway, Marvel Comics, the Punisher goes around with his firearms. His family was killed by mobsters and villains, and now he goes around. And the Punisher often comes in conflict with other heroes, Spider-Man and Daredevil, and some of our more street level characters, because the Punisher kills people, and our heroes who don't kill do that, right? And so the vengeful one storyline is also many times where, for example, I love hags for some reason. I just do. I love hags because they can be physically tough. They can be they represent social anxiety and intellectual trying to overcome them, and they can also be NPCs as well, not necessarily evil but antagonists. And the hags often have come from the hags, Medusa. A lot of our monsters came from vengeful acts, right? You hurt my family and may a curse come upon you. Boom. Yep. Yep. Oh man. Let's see. Sometimes the rules do apply to the villain. Mickey Rourke was a villain who, in the middle of a fight with Van Damme, stepped on his own landmine, and it was the best part of the movie. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Mike says, as a typical DM, I cannot see how in Marvel why the Punisher hasn't shot Kingpin in the mouth one day. How is that? Yeah, you know what? Yes, yes, that's true. It's kind of like, why hasn't the Joker been shoved down an elevator shaft by now? But you are absolutely right. The first person, like out of all the villains, why hasn't the Punisher just been like, "Hey, Kingpin, knock, 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 yes," right through the face, right? I don't know. A curse upon your houses. Yeah, I curse you thin. Oh, that's a movie I haven't seen in a while. I curse you thinner. Yeah, yeah. Hags and making curses because they've been hurt or injured or something. Yeah. Throwing layers upon heroes and villains adds significant dimension to those characters, be they NPCs or PCs. Definitely agree with you there, Shadow. I mean, just with this little list what we have here, let's see if I can move it just a little bit. Maybe it won't move a little bit. But yes, just with this list that we have right here, um, it is very much like it very much comes across as like, wait a minute, doesn't the henchman can't they also be a fallen hero? Isn't the machine, could the machine also be something else? We talked about the femme fatale. Is the femme fatale like a seducer? You know, I mean, is that still the same thing? The nemesis is the nemesis also technically a fallen hero? I mean, many of these fall onto each other, and I think we, as suffering from our own world building disease, yeah, you guys are silly. Um, I think layering some of our villains and being able to solve things without just murder killing all of our villains makes them more interesting. And also, it also brings about the idea of like, our villains just evil to be evil. Well, we if we just give it a little bit of thought, we can give them a little bit more dimension. And why are they doing the things that they're doing? Well, maybe it's because maybe they do have a good reason for what they're doing. Now, it doesn't mean we agree that they should be doing what they're doing, but we do know why there's a reason why they're doing it. The farmer who is constantly besieged by evil from all different sides. The nobles want to take more money for their taxes. The evil hordes keep stealing their murder killing their people in their village. There are thieves and banditry and blah blah blah. And then the farmer goes up into the hills and goes, if there's just any power to listen to me, give me something to solve this situation. They become corrupted. Well, there's a good reason why the farmer did that. So yeah. So anyway, I thought it'd be kind of fun to go over some of these 15 villain archetypes, and if we see them in our modern culture, like some of the things we movies and television and graphic novels and things like that. Do we see this in our anime? Do we see more than one of these in some of our anime? And are there any that we think could be kind of combined together? Like, could this list be cut in half? I think there could be an argument for cutting this list in half. Some people would say, like, the mastermind and the nemesis and even the corrupted or something could be combined together, or maybe a dark god, evil incarnate, and something else could be combined together. So I think you could probably match 2 and 2, many of these. I also think just because of a modern context, we could probably rename some of these, like the beast, the machine, the femme fatale probably could be renamed as well. I'm sure there's other lists with different names on them. So yeah. But anyway, I thought I'd show this off, share this out with you guys. And I love drawing inspiration from other things. So like I mentioned before, like an ooze that's a mastermind. Well, one does exist, but yeah, kind of cool. If we want to add a dragon into our game and we want to add more dragons, could the dragon be something else other than just fire breathing and doing destruction? Maybe the dragon is a mastermind and no one knows a dragon even exists. Maybe the dragon is a vengeful one because of the goodly knights that have cracked and destroyed all of the dragon's eggs. And now that dragon is pissed off. And so that dragon is a vengeful one, which is a real villain. But then the heroes, even after slaying the dragon, realize there's an even greater villain, and that is the goodly knights that have caused this in the first place. Mike says, the Joker, I would say, is a corrupted mastermind nemesis. Yep, absolutely. I think recontextualizing some of what our heroes and villains are doing makes things give a little bit of a good, maybe even a better story as to why they're doing the thing, right? We all love the Joker, and I think the Nolan Joker epitomized the chaos of that character in a way. And from yesterday, we talked about the iceberg, Hemingway iceberg. There were unsaid things about the Joker character in the Nolan movie that gave that character a lot of inferred background that I think we loved as well. Mike says, think back to Rango. Rattlesnake Jake would be a great dragon archetype. Ooh, yeah. Yes, and Heath Ledger was brilliant. Yes, there were the fact that the Joker character didn't have fingerprints, didn't have a past. Um, some were saying that was Joker a result of PTSD, that the Joker was a military figure that came back. There's so many Joker's origin. He kept changing his own origin story. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the movie Joker was different than the Joker. Shai says, you must be talking about the classic Joker, right? The 2019 Joker was different. That's another villain. Yeah. I mean, in the movie, not Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, who plays Joker, in the movie Joker, is another villain who we see. We're just like shaking our heads, like, oh no, one bad day. Who literally commits murder on public television. Yep. Yeah, the Joker is an example of how to overcome disability. Well, it's an example. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good example. It's an example of disability, um, un unhealed. I could see that. It's the lone gunman thing happening here in our own country, right? It's wounds writ large and having an effect everybody else. Death Angel Shadow says, the best dragon I ever DM'd was one that was an evil blue dragon, had an elven companion, and when he was killed by the PCs, she reverted back to her draconic form and wreaked havoc upon the PCs. I love this stuff like that. Drew says the 2019 Joker was just terrible in my opinion. I am so over the excuse of mental illness as reason for violent characters. Uh I agree and disagree. I like the movie. Um I do agree that constantly doing that I don't think it's an excuse though. But I do understand that it makes people, because my reasoning is that we're all on a spectrum. Every day of every minute, we are all on the spectrum in one way or another. And we tend to otherize. I'm with you there, Drew. We tend to otherize people with like mental illness, and I'm like, we're a little closer to that than we think we are. You know? Yeah. Yep, Mike says vilifying mental illness is an overused trope. It sure is. Um, it's that next. I don't know how to explain it. Yes, it is the. Okay, I'm not going to make this comparison, but it's the. We're using that because it's punching down, basically, is what it is, or not coming up with creative solutions to a thing. Yeah. The evil blue dragon, did he happen to be addicted to abyssal herbs as well? It's funny. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for allowing me to share this with you. These little like 15 archetypes, you can type this in, you can Google these. These, I don't know what you call reasonings, frameworks, creative prompts, so forth. For example, there's if I rule this list up here, because I was going to do this. I've done this one before. This is the 16 character archetypes in literature, and it goes through, using them as different. What does your character in your story represent? This has nothing to do with tabletop role playing games, but we can steal from it. Like if you make an NPC, what are they are? What do they represent in your world? And there's like, do they represent a villain or a mentor or a caretaker or a rebel, or are they just unlucky, or are they the guardian, the jester, things like that. So we can pull a lot of these from other things other than our role-playing games and just make them kind of cool. So that's all. Just wanted to share it with you guys. Yeah, Shai says, how about the guy in Taxi Driver? Yeah. Oh, what is his name? The character's name from Taxi Driver. Can't remember. Cannot remember. Oh well, can't remember. Okay. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show and allowing me to share these little tidbits out there. And of course, this show is always an idea you can steal. It's basically Trevor Bickle. That's it. There it is. Bickle. Couldn't remember his first name, but it was like, was it Spinley Trickle? Something like that. It's Trevor Bickle. Mm-mm. Drew says, "See you tomorrow. Half a wheel trailer to watch." I definitely say watch the trailer and how scary to reality it is. Yes, guys, have a great one. We're gonna let Drew get scared after seeing that trailer, and you guys take it easy. I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much for sharing your time with me. Your time is very valuable. I hope we can make change in your tabletop role playing experiences and life in general. So, anyway, thank you guys very much for coming back to the show. Thank you very much for tolerating the congestion that I feel it, and I know my voice sounds a little bit different, so I apologize for that as well. It's already horrible. Yeah, see you tomorrow, hopefully. All right, there, shit lords. Have a great day, and Angel, thank you very much for being here as well. Oh, sorry, Des Angel Shadow. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility.